So to start off, we'll start with 22W44A. Basically, bamboo mosaic can be now used as fuel. Chiseled bookshelves now work with hoppers, more creative changes, monster spawner changes, spawn egg changes, and step sound changes. So that means that if I turn up my volume, that you might be able to hear, I might be able to hear as well. If I just turn up blocks all the way up, turn that up, that's quite loud, you'll be able to hear that it has a different sound. Well, it did have, I think, a different sound to begin with, but in terms of signs and stuff, I'm still going to turn that up, because that's like, it might be a bit loud. But basically, these signs have now got correct correct sounds associated now. So this default, you know, wooden sort of sounding thing, it's got these special blocks. So basically, it's just not useful things. So these can now be used with hoppers. So if I grab a hopper, if we have a look, try and find it, register on blocks, hopper, you should see that we should be able to not only just not only pop it into it, but also we can grab it out of it. So if we just sort of, I don't know, place a few books in here, so if we just sort of do this, we can pop these in here. You should be able to see that it keeps going into here, so you can see it goes there, and then it should drain from there, out of there, into here. So if we just remove these, it'll keep constantly doing it, it'll drain out and into here. Nice. There is a small little thing which I'm sure will be patched next time, but basically you can just keep going, and if you look really closely, if I turn up my GUI scale up to, I don't know, 4, you should be able to see down at the bottom of my UI, those book counts are just going up. It's an interesting little thing, and I kind of see why it done it, but also that's a little bit strange. And so now, you know, can't actually do this. See, you just you can see it distributing around here. But all I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop these, which we do need, and we can clear our inventory. So that's a little interesting thing, which I'm sure will be patched. And also, I cannot do it on this level of GUI scale. That's a bit small. There we go. That's nice. It wasn't a small one. But it didn't have any major features. It just had a nice little quality of life, kind of adding things like hopper systems and whatever in to work with things. There was more creative menu changes, spawn egg changes. I'm not sure entirely what those were, but have a look at the thing. It doesn't really matter. But we'll get into 22W45A now. Very usefully adds new default skins for online players, so you know, the new skins that they've added. Instead of just logging in with either Steve or Alex into your Minecraft world, you can probably get a random one of these new skins if you're on a server in offline mode or whatever. So you got block of bamboo and striped block of bamboo. So these are new blocks here, so they're pretty nice. I'm glad they've introduced at least one green bamboo block. And the only thing is this underneath here, or this top one, whatever, is not really green. It's literally the same as the top of this yellow one. We just you know, compare again the bottom. You can just see they're exactly the same. So if it was green on the bottom as well, if it was more green on the bottom, then it might be one of my favourite blocks. Otherwise, it's alright, not my favourite, but pretty nice anyway. So I'm glad they've introduced at least a green block. Anyway, we've had interesting changes to the Vex as well. So now it's got this, looks a lot more like the LA. If I just spawn in LA, right, you can see that it looks extremely similar now in terms of shape, its wings, and it does kind of further that lore explanation that perhaps the Vexes are like, you know, the pillagers and whatever, illagers and all that kind of stuff converted the LA into the Vex. I think that's a pretty likely explanation, and definitely with a lot of these new changes now, that definitely seems to support it. It also looks much better than the previous texture, which kind of had too much depth and detail in it for how small it actually was. It's the wild update music, so it's a little less loud. It's a bit quieter now, so that it's not roaring in the background in comparison to everything else. Torches will pop off shulker boxes, so if I get a shulker box, I'm trying to use the inventory more, but if I can't seem to find it, rather than using the search feature, which is pretty useful, but you know, we'll just see. So torches will be under functional blocks. It's a lot more easier to guess where it'll be, so you can see it just pops off like so. Makes sense. I mean, yeah, it might break a few things, might be a bit annoying in some cases, but makes sense. So teleport to team member option, spectator menu, now shows up with viable target players, or only shows up if there's viable target players. So the operator tabs and more creative menu changes. That's something else. So you've got now this little open to LAN. You can set a port number if you want. By the looks of it, it's just random every time. But you can set up a specific port, which is cool. It's probably not something many people will use, but I think it's a good option to have anyway. You know, setting specific ports rather than something random. There's the operators tab menu. So this is basically, if you have the correct permissions, if you are an operator of the world, and you and basically in your menu settings you have to go into options, controls. Under here, why is it under here? I don't know, don't ask me. It's off by default. If you want to turn it on, you can just see that in your menu. Just get a new option down here, and it should give you all these blocks that you can access to use the world. Say I want it to be light all the time, but I don't actually be able to use a block for light source. Boom, light. So I can have this little light here now. You can see kind of just the difference between some of these darker shades and lighter shades. You know, I've grown a little bit more of a fan of the lighter shades than the darker shades, but you know, it's a nice block on its own. But when you're mixing it with lots of things like this, not a fan. It's one of those builds that it's like you're not going to build a thing purely out of bamboo, not unless you need to. But more of it'll be kind of an accent colour almost to your builds, which I think is a cool niche use for it.